peeps, it's Andercon, and I think a skunk just walked through my neighborhood, had my windows open, and the stench just filled my whole goddamn house. Ah, Jesus, smells in here. Ugh. For sure. Well, I guess I'm gonna have to deal with that. Anyway, there's a handful of things I'm gonna do today. First, we're gonna start off on the little factory. I'll have to figure out where I wanted it exactly. This is going to be a mixed metal ingot factory. Actually, it's going to make that into the advanced alloys as well. And I'm going to stick it right around in here somewhere. I think I ought to put it... I could really cramp it in right next to this if I really wanted to. I could put it right here. That would probably work. Alright, so generally my idea here is I got 3 plate bending machines, and if you look at the recipes for the mixed metal ingots, somewhere in here I got nickel, bronze, and tin plates, and that'll make you mixed metal ingots. There's a whole bunch of other recipes in here. Some of them will give you quite a few, but things like the titanium, that stuff is hard to get a hold of. I don't have hardly any of that. But I have a crap ton of everything I need for this recipe here, so I can have a whole bunch of them. So I'm gonna just go and make a little factory out of that. So I'm gonna have 3 plate bending machines, like so, and 2 of these I gotta change the facings. I don't really know why the facings sometimes decide to face the wrong direction, but I wonder if they actually don't, and they just look like it. Because it looks like it's over there, but it isn't. Oh well, we can go and test and see what happens. And I need a little chest right here. And a fabricator. See, I could probably put this thing right there. And then I'll have to go and run some plates and some stuff through it at that point. So I'm going to go ahead and power this, and I need a low voltage and some other stuff. I suppose I could probably stick the low voltage transformer on the floor right there, and it's facing the wrong direction. There we go. And run... I don't want to run it off of this, because then it'll grab power prematurely. I want to grab it from probably up above. About there, that'll work. Let's see, you guys got power? Should. And now I'll probably just stick one of these in each. See what happens. Oop, just one. And one over here. And see if they end up where I want them to be. I also need to... Okay, it's already there. Okay, well, only the one plate actually made it to where I wanted it. So, somehow or other, I gotta get these thingies to face the proper direction. So if I hit this, then what will it do? You gonna go over where I want it to be? No? Come on, one of these days? It's difficult to get these things to not act up. Well, my other option is I can put the stuff... I could probably change which way these things are looking. That might do the trick. Let me just grab stuff out of it. And we'll try this again. Go ahead and get that. Get that. I'll just put them in this way. Now they should definitely work this way. Okay, now we'll try this. So what kind of plate do I got in there? Okay, I got bronze, so let's do another nickel. Just for convenience sake, I'll put one in each. Tin plate there. Okay, now let's see if it works. Yes, it worked. Go get this in here. Actually, I do want one of these of each. So, this particular fabricator will be able to grab anything out of there and do its thing if I just add the recipe in, and it'll make a mixed metal ingot right away, and went ahead and did it. So just stick that in there, and now I'll be able to pull mixed metal ingots out of that, And see, I also want to cook or compress those, so I'll have to move that into this compressor. I think I'm gonna have the compressor on the floor right here. That could work just fine, in which case I want to put this here. Maybe. It might not work there. I'll probably have to put it here instead and put the compressor on the floor here. About like so. Copper cable will work just fine right here. And this wants to pull mixed metal ingots only. Let's see. Let me just pull an AND gate on this. I think that might work. Throw an AND gate right there. And actually, what I probably should do is stick a hopper on that. That might be a better idea. Yeah, let's do that. Because I got a bunch of hoppers right here. And I'll just have to pull this stuff, move this around, pull things out. So, actually, while I'm messing around with this, I was actually thinking about one of my subscribers asked for me to talk a bit more about myself, because he really doesn't, you know, you kind of know a person, but you kind of don't, like you don't really know their history or anything. And I got a bit of history, and I figured I'd go ahead and talk about it a bit. So let's go ahead and start way back, because you know history can start from a long, long time ago. Let's start with say my my own parents and my grandparents. My grandfather, for instance, he was like the centerpiece of our family for the longest time. He did kick the bucket, unfortunately, but he was a big part of my life, and big part of my parents' lives, obviously. But and so the one thing about my family was they struggled with poverty for the longest time, for generations basically. And I need to go ahead and pull out emerald pipe here. I'll probably do that. I can't pull it there, can I? I got too much junk in the way. Let's see, where do I want to put this? So basically, my family, well, my grandfather, he had his own little business. He had a garage and a gas station. Now, this is back in like the 20s, 30s, 40s. And so you'd think that they would actually have a little bit of money back then, but no. Cars weren't very popular at the time, especially in the area they lived in. Everybody would look out the window and oogle at a car every time one walked by, or drove by, walking car. So cars weren't really, you know, that lucrative a business at the time, I guess. I need some iron. I guess they disabled the tin bucket recipe. And also he had a wife and 7 kids. That 7 kids all at once is honestly quite a big, you know, breaker, and really can throw somebody into poverty. Especially when the family happens to have a genetic disease that disables 2 of them. My family, for generations, had been struggling with what they call muscular dystrophy. It's kind of a weird disease. I don't know a lot about it. The things I do know about it is it causes the people that have it to have their feet grow kind of backwards and upside down, so they can't walk. And I think it makes it so they have incredible muscle fatigue all the time, so they can't hardly move around much. So they can't really do hardly anything for themselves. And honestly, that would be a terrible thing for anybody to live through. And so there was 2 members of the family. So he had, let's see, 3 sons, 2 daughters. 2 of the sons had muscular dystrophy and couldn't do anything for themselves at all, like ever. And that really would suck. I can't put the filter on that just yet. What did I do here? Okay, this will work. And let's see, where are we at? I want you always on. Okay, that should work. And I also have to run pipes here and there. let's do that this way. So, having 2 disabled children, and actually I think I can probably stick a diamond transport pipe right there for a good reason. So having 2 disabled children and 3 other kids, shortly after the Depression and such, still puts a family in quite a financial bind. So my mom would tell me the stories of them not having an outhouse. They had to use an outhouse for the longest time. My mom, they didn't have inside plumbing at all until my mom was, say, I think she was 13 or so. So my mom would tell me stories about when she'd go out to the field, and she'd have to, avoid the neighbor's cows, which she was terrified of at the time. And she would go out and use the bathroom, and sometimes end up getting stuck there because she was so terrified of the neighbor's cows that she didn't want to leave the bathroom until they went away. That would really suck, being stuck out there. But let's see, I need a little bit more pipe, and I need one of these kind of pipes probably. Let's just put it right here and right here. And they had a little spring up on the side of the hill, and they would use that to bathe in, basically. And it was cold water. And if it was the winter time, they would take their water and like buy a bucket or 2 full, and bring it inside, and have to warm it up, have a sponge bath or something. So they were ridiculously poor. I'm so glad I didn't have to grow up with that kind of poorness. That would be so bad. This is looking pretty good now. I want to have probably another gate here, and I'll probably just make this thingy so I guess this is probably just going to be so I can only do like a stack at a time. If I really want to make this better, which I think I will, I'll stick a hopper on it. Let's just go ahead and do that. That'd probably be a better idea. That's pretty simple to do. Let's see. So they actually had a decent bit of property, not a whole lot. It wasn't too far away from town, and they had their own little park, you could say. So by the time I was a kid, everybody was out of poverty. All the kids were grown up. The 2 with muscular dystrophy had died when they were in their 20s, so I'd actually never met them. And which is unfortunate though, but well, I'm just glad that I never had that disease. The way that it's not really a disease, it's a genetic kind of defect sort of thing. The way that works with that particular one is if like the women would be genetic carriers and the males would have it. So the females could genetically carry it and give it to their male children. And fortunately, my mom didn't give it to me. So there was a chance I could have had that, and fortunately it didn't happen. I'm very glad about that. Let's see, I need that one there, and that one there. It should work pretty good now. And I should probably stick a lever somewhere nearby. So also, since my uncle, he didn't have it, he had kids, and they couldn't have had it since he didn't have it. And my other aunt, she had 1 son, and he didn't have it either. So currently that disease is completely and utterly out of the family. So we never have to deal with it ever again, which is wonderful. If I ever have kids, I don't have to deal with it either. Let's see. That should work. Now, do I got everything hooked up? I don't have this end hooked up at all. Okay, let's just put that there. And I'll go ahead and start the system up, I guess. Right there. Okay, so that's doing its thing, hopefully, and it'll hopefully do it all right. Other things that happened was, well, so by the time I was born, my parents were still quite poor. They had actually moved down to Florida for a couple years, and I was born in Florida. And so I guess you could call me a sunshine baby, I suppose is what they have the term as. Is this working? What is down? Black? Nickel ingots. Okay, it looks like it's working. Yes, okay. There we go. Appears to be working now. And over here, who knows? It's probably instantly being turned into mixed metal ingots. Good question. Where's everything going? It's not spilling out on the floor. I don't have any on me. There's nothing going on there. Oh, okay, there, it's working. So I need one of these alloys. So my parents, they were actually not the best off at the time. There was another, this was like 84. There was another financial downturn going on at the time. Wasn't a good time for anybody. Actually, instead of this, I would like to hook up this into the system to... actually, I wanted an import bus, not an export bus. Let's see where I can swipe one of these things. Let's see, what is this? Probably off of that. Oh, that's not the right key. So, my parents worked, or my mom didn't work at the time because she was so preggo. My father was working in a fish factory, gutting fish all the time. That had to suck. And, let's see. Pull that out. Single items. And I want to hook this thing up to this somehow. How am I going to do that? Probably right here. Let's see. It's getting a little tight. Just need to get this a little higher. Not over there. Get over here. There we go. And put that right here. Okay. I think this should be working now, and I should be getting my advanced alloys out of this just fine. Easy way to tell is check the system upstairs and see what's going on. Alloys. Alright, advanced alloys, and they are counting. Sweet. So if I ever want advanced alloys, I can just grab them out of there. That's pretty cool. Okay, well, I didn't need most of this junk I thought I might need, but oh well. Let's see. Ah, yes. So I was born in Florida. And my parents had this, they were going through quite a tough time. And then they decided to, well, my grandma, she went and thought she was going to help them out a bit and help pay for them to get back up to Ohio. So she paid for the trip back up and everything. And it was not necessarily the easiest of trips, you could say. My mom had to leave a bunch of stuff behind, like all her good clothes and things. She was always sad about that. And because they only had one small car and they couldn't take everything with them. And then also on the way up, my dad looked at over his shoulder and seen a scorpion, like just about to sting him in the car with my mom and me in the car. Oh God! So he stopped, freaked the hell out. Everybody jumped out the car, and he proceeded to try to find the thing, and he couldn't find it for the life of him. So somewhere in the car during this trip, with the baby in it, there was a scorpion in the car all the way back up to Ohio. Tense trip, you could say. That would suck so hard. So I've put up my LESU system, my Lapatronic Energy Storage Unit system, the one I exploded some episodes ago. And now the way this thing works is all you have to do is have some of these LESU blocks sitting up next to it. And I went ahead and had a system build these things for me automatically. And I currently have somewhere around 148, I think, LESU blocks connected. And it's currently able to accept 512N and output at 153. And I want to keep adding these things on there. So as long as you have these lasso blocks touching other lasso blocks, it's at least one of them is touching that thingy, it'll add on to the power. So I decided to go ahead and put these things in as a decorative floor in here. Let me go ahead and work on that a little bit as I work on my story. So when better hit this button right there. So they finally made it back up to Ohio, and there was what the family ended up doing was my grandfather had a good bit of land, so they dropped a trailer a little ways over the hill from my grandfather's place, and it was not a good trailer at all. This is one of those office trailers. It's just a big empty trailer. Didn't have a bathroom in it. It didn't have a sink. It didn't have any rooms, for crying out loud. It was just one big long room. Didn't even have a toilet. And at this point, there was no outhouse either. So my father told me of the times where they had to go and take their shit out in the yard. So if you ever visited, you'd probably have to, watch where you step. That would really suck. So they must have been incredibly poor at the time. That would be so bad. I'm just glad that by the time I was actually aware of anything, the family wasn't as poor anymore. So I had some family around. I grew up with a good bit of family around, and honestly, they were quite a bit of an influence on me at the time, especially my grandfather. He was always great, but usually a lot of grandparents are quite nice people. I think I'll put one more set in here. And this thing's actually, I got this whole thing running off of, it's being powered up by my coal. All my generators downstairs. Let me just take a look at that real quick after I drop this block in here. So I think, which way am I looking at? Oh, this way. So right now I've got my biogenerators off because I turned off the system, and everything's running off of the generators except I probably ran out of coal. Yeah, add a coal. Okay, well, I'll just flip this switch for a bit. I got so much of that stuff, it's ridiculous. And I'm actually going to break this because there's a reason to my madness. Basically, I've got a system here that's making me charcoal, but it has to have power to do it. So you see this thing right here, electric furnace? It has to have power from somewhere, and the only thing that's powering it right now is a generator, which is probably about out, and all these things. So I'll just let this thing do its thing for a while. I got enough energy to last me for a while. So every one of these lasso blocks I add adds 1 million to its max power storage and 1 to its output. So I actually grew up with a cousin. I guess I can just call, I might as well drop his real name, or at least his nickname. I called him Marky. That's my cousin's name. And I also had my 3 other cousins from my Uncle John. He had 3 daughters, and they were a little crazy. But oh well. He had actually married a supermodel, for crying out loud, and had 3 somewhat prissy daughters, which was kind of weird. They were mildly full of themselves, but it wasn't too bad. And they actually were always pretty well off. Now, by the time I'd actually reached, let's say, I think I was 6 or 7, my parents had finally got out of general poverty. They had a house, finally, and they were doing okay. They actually had a couple houses by that time, and this house I remember anyway is the one I ended up spending about 8 years in, and it was out in the woods, so I grew up kind of out in the woods, and spend a lot of time taking walks out there and stuff. This is actually looking kind of neat. I think I need to bolden this outside, this one here, so I'll just start doing this. So we had our own little bit of woods. House was out in the woods, everything. It was a single-story house with a full-size basement, full size of the entire house, so it's a big ass basement. And I had my own room, of course. I was an only child, didn't have to deal with any siblings until later. And everything so okay. I actually had a rough time because my parents went through a divorce, and then I was depressed for years, and did shitty at school for years, you know, dealing with bullies, or just sulky because of everything going wrong sometimes. But oh well. Oh, okay, I thought I'd done something horrible there. It's fine. And, so we stayed there for a long time. And then after the divorce, several years later, my mom met someone at her workplace. She studied and became a nurse, so she had some college education on that. And at the place she was working, she worked at a nursing home for years and years. She met a maintenance guy, and that maintenance guy and her hit it off big time. And after a year or two, they ended up marrying, so I ended up with a stepdad. And he was a great guy. He was a very technical guy, pretty well learned, and definitely like a workaholic, a real go-getter kind of guy. And he certainly was not poor. I mean, they weren't rich, but he wasn't a poor guy either. Definitely not a deadbeat sort of dad or anything. Not that my regular dad is exactly either. But so I grew up with actually some good influences. So they ended up. He had a house in town, and we wanted to go out and have a farm, and so finally, after a couple years, he went and bought a farm. Or actually, he bought a empty bit of land, really, just a big field, and we ended up making it into a farm. Which by then I was like 12 or 13, and he had 5 kids, 2 of which had completely grown up. They're older than I am, and by like 10 years. So I didn't have to deal with them. But his other 3 kids, one of them didn't want to have anything to do with him. She was kind of a beach. The youngest daughter, she'd come out quite frequently. She was somewhat nice. And then his middle son, he was just a year younger than I am. Total dick. Total. I was tortured by him for years on end. So at this point, I could probably start dropping into the stories of that mess, especially since I'm probably about out of time for this episode. So I'll just keep working on this stuff and continue the story next episode of my terrible stepbrother. Catch you later.